All right, welcome to the Purpose Driven Mom Show, episode 386. Today is going to be so much fun because I'm hanging out with my favorite people and I get to share them with you. This is Team APDM. Since you're on YouTube too, we can wave and say hello, give a big wave. I'm going to introduce you to what each of the members of the team do so you can kind of get some context and tell you what we're doing on this episode. So let me run through. We'll do a quick little introduction. And then if you want to add something just like about your family, just so people can have context of like ages of kids and like life experience, I think that would be awesome. So, all right, I will start over with Ria. So Ria works in our customer service department. She's also, I guess you'd consider like my executive assistant. So she runs my appointments and the calendar and the scheduling, and she's one of our coaches. So she helps coach and hold our club members accountable. So Ria, thanks for being here. You want to give us a little blurb about you?
Yeah. So I'm a homeschooling military spouse. I have 5 kids. My oldest is 16. I have an 11-year-old, an almost 7-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old. They keep me very busy, but I'm really glad that I get to be part of this team. It's been a wonderful experience, and I've been on the team for almost going to be going on 2 years. So
Wild.
yeah.
This will be really fun too, because I think for those people listening, to hear kind of what everyone's life is like, plus getting to work in a virtual environment. You know, like I think it's important. A lot of people listening, we have a lot of people who like want to be VAs and a lot of people who are thinking of starting their own business. Like all of these moms also, I don't think I said this. I love to hire internally because I find that teaching culture is really hard. And so I like to hire people who come from my program. So these are all people who are club members, been club members, right? Because they get it. And there's just, when you don't have to teach that, like I would rather teach a skill, like here's how you do this, over here's the vibe and the feel and the culture of our team, like any day. So all of these are people who potentially weren't thinking like, hey, let me do some virtual work, online work. And I was like, come on over, like it, like let's be a part of it. So thanks, Ria. All right, Courtney is the newest member of our team. Courtney is one of our coaches and leads 2 of our calls. She also is in charge of our Sunshine Club, which helps just bring some joy and community into our group. So Courtney, if you want to do a quick little intro.
Yes, so I am also a homeschooling mom. I have a 5 and a 3-year-old, and we just announced we have one on the way. So I will soon have 3. And yeah, like Cara just said, I have been a member of the club for over 2 years. And I originally was in an MLM and decided I wanted to transition out of that, but didn't really know where I wanted to end up. So when the coaching position opened up, it was kind of perfect because it gave me somewhere to start and somewhere to grow and learn. And I have loved my time on the team so far, and I can't wait for more time.
Excellent. I also just noticed, like, I'm the only one not wearing glasses. Like, sorry. This is also, I have to say, this is going to be a very informal podcast episode because we are a very informal team. And we are just hang out as friends a lot. But I just realized I'm the only one without my glasses on. So now I feel kind of left out. But I tend to attract people who wear glasses, if you haven't noticed. I don't know what that is. All right. So let me head over to Arwen. Arwen is like the OG, as we like to say, because Arwen has been around since pretty much the club has started, and has been a team member for a very long time. Probably held almost every role on the team at some point and knows it really well. Arwen runs our backend, our tech support, our billing, the Facebook community group, emails, affiliate promotions, and kind of just keeps the ship in the day-to-day running. So Arwen, how are you?
Hi, thank you. Yes, I believe I was in the very first run of the club and also one of the first internal team hires. So yeah, I know a fair bit about what's going on, which is more than I can say for in my house. So this is Tonks. She's going away now. I have been married for 25 years. I have a 25-year-old who is married now, which is insane. I have a 22, I'm losing track, 22-year-old who's still living here. I have a 20-year-old who's in Boston at art school, and I have a 15-year-old who's still in high school. The first and third I homeschooled through junior high and high school. But that part's all done now because they're all grown up.
Oh
So
man.
here I am.
I can't even imagine like getting to that point where I'm like 25. Like, oh my gosh. I'm sure it doesn't even feel real some days. Like I look at my kids,
No.
like, how are you this age? Like, like time is crazy. Time is well, thank you. And yes, Arwen's been around forever. I feel like, how do I say this? I sometimes think Arwen knows more about what's going on in the back end than I do. So often I'll be like, Arwen, how do I do this? Where is it going on? And could not run it without you. So all right, so let's end our introductions with Jamie. Jamie is our lead coach and department head. Jamie keeps my head from falling off a lot of the times. She is also runs our book club, our coaching program, all things product development in the Purpose Driven Mom Club, and is also kind of my second in command to help bounce ideas off. Oh, and Jamie also runs all of our launches and challenges. So again, taking a lot off my plate. Jamie, how are you today?
I'm good. Hi. I joined the club in 2020. I was a member, I think, in mid 2020. And then, like Arwen, I was one of the OG team members when you were just wanting someone to help out. I think, Arwen, we were working like an hour a week, if even that, when we started, which is hilarious.
Yeah, it was just coaching calls. Yeah.
Yeah. It was fun. I never thought I would turn into this. So you never know.
Yep.
And I have a almost 8-year-old, an almost 5-year-old, and an 8-month-old puppy. So I think I have the least amount of children in this group. And yet I feel like the most chaotic. So.
But not anymore. And so this actually beautiful segue, Jamie. Thanks for setting me up there, because Jamie's actually the reason we started what we're going to tell you about today on this episode. And so listen, I said to the team, why don't we record our takeaways from this experiment we've been doing? And so that's literally what we're doing today. We're going to have a really informal conversation with you about what we did and why we did it. One of the things that we know that works in the club is when you follow the program. And we all say this as the people who run the program. I'm the person that created the program. Life just throws you off. And if you've been listening to the podcast for any amount of time recently, you know that I've had quite a year, and as has my team. All of us have kind of had life just like thrown at us. And we were all kind of getting a little bit thrown off and decided, why don't we actually try to like really follow the plan? We're using our theme time blocking method. So we have tons of episodes on this where we decide what the theme is for the block. We pick a micro 3+ depending on the time. And one of the things we weren't doing, because I feel like a lot of us were time blocking, right? But what we weren't doing was having that 4th step in the 5-step plan, which was the accountability. And this is the one thing I noticed too. And then Jamie, I'm going to go to you next because I want you to kind of tell me about like why you messaged me. I was like, I need a buddy. I need to figure this out. But I think part of it is because we're the ones running the program, it's very easy for us not to plug in to get the support. I don't get on an accountability call as Cara. And now I'm like thinking about it, like I should be, because I also need the support in the coaching. And that's one of the things in the program with the accountability. It's like, it really works, right? Like you tell somebody you're gonna do something. And it's not that any of these people were like, well, I'm going to get on you if you don't do it. It's just knowing that I'm not doing it alone. There was something that changed. So what we did was over the course of the week, we have a Voxer thread, which is like a walkie-talkie app. And we would send at the end of each of our own time blocks. We're all in, different time zones and different time blocks, what we worked on and what it was kind of stacked up versus our intentionality. And we had a lot of really cool takeaways. So before we get to the takeaways from it, Jamie, I want to head over to you because how this started was Jamie messaged me and I was like, wait, let's do this together. And then on the Monday meeting, we were like, wait, and everyone's like, me, let's all do it. So Jamie, tell me a little bit about your thoughts behind it.
Yeah. As Cara mentioned, this was a hard year and October kind of came and went. Halloween came and went, and I love the holidays. Like I am the cheesy, like I have my list, I want to decorate. Like I am not a bah humbug when it comes to the holidays. And Halloween, I was the biggest Grinch for Halloween. Like I didn't want to do anything. I was so overwhelmed. We did not even, the Halloween decorations never even made it, excuse me, out of the closet. And November came and I was like, no, I do not want that for December. And I had this mindset of, okay, November is going to be a push month. And in the club, we talk about seasons and different themes for the seasons. And I was like, okay, I want December to be a rest/fun month. So I really want to get my head down, be really intentional about November, get ahead on work, map out all the things I need to do for the holidays. That way, come December, I can just relax and enjoy and embrace the fun, schedule a Hallmark movie here and there because that's my thing. And so I had messaged Cara, like, how do I do this? I just need somebody to walk me through. Because I know the things of the club and I do the planning. I tend to over plan. I'm probably the over planner of the club. And I tend to also get distracted. So I just really wanted some insight on what does a push month look like? How do I map it out? How do I not get burnt out? And how do I stay on track?
Yeah. And then Jamie says to me, and I was like, I need it too. I was like, me too. And then we all kind of like raised our like, me too. Because again, I think we forget how much is on our shoulders as moms and how often we don't get the support we need because we're just doing for everybody else. And so this felt like a fun experiment. We've been doing it now. It's been 2 weeks. So when this episode comes out, it'll probably be almost a full month before that we've been doing this. And again, we decided whenever you want, so there's no pressure. At the end of whatever your time block is, if you want to send a Voxer over with just kind of what it was. And I'd love to hear some takeaways because I had some interesting takeaways too about what you've learned in the past 2 weeks. A mix of like how you work, what worked for you, and like things you also need to audit. So Rhea, let's head to you first. And if you want to tell us a little bit about why you wanted to raise your hand to jump into this challenge, and then just anything that you've learned in the past 2 weeks.
I think a big reason why I wanted to jump into the challenge was just I really feel like I needed the accountability, obviously, but just the focus of it. I sometimes feel like the day kind of gets away from me. I have like the intention of doing XYZ during the day, but if I don't really get down and like write it out or put it in my ClickUp or put it in my note, then I just don't do it. It's like out of sight, out of mind kind of situation. And so I was really excited because I was like, yeah, like this will be great to kind of like be like, this is what I plan to do today. And then like see how well I am accomplishing that thing I set out to do. So a couple of things that I noticed for me, it's helpful for me to kind of like have all my things that I want to do listed out for the day. But also having the flexibility to adjust them, like when my kids are so fun. My boys are so fun. They've been doing a lot of bickering lately. So there's been a lot of like, oh, I've got to go break up this fight, because it's not really a fight, it's more like a bicker fest. And then like I don't finish whatever I want to do in that time block. So like being able to shift it and pivot my plan for that day, or saying like, I think I might have put too much stuff in my time block. Like I think I maybe should back off and like make this maybe one, because the time just wasn't there, or this wasn't a good day to do this for whatever reason. So I think the biggest things that I've kind of learned are that one, just kind of being mindful of how I am planning out those time blocks and how many things I'm sticking into them. And then also just being able to kind of look at what I'm getting done at the end of the day versus what I set out to do at the start of it, because that's been what's really helpful for me, like saying this is what I'm going to do today. And I might not always get to check in like after every time block, but at the end of the day, reflecting back on what was accomplished and saying like, oh, I did all this, as opposed to like, I didn't get this done.
Yeah, I think that intentionality, I feel like a lot of us can be like, yeah, like just making the plan for the day. I'm like real good on Monday, and then like by Thursday I'm tired, and then I have no intentionality, and then I can't get going. So I feel like knowing before, like, oh, this is what's going to happen today, I can co-sign on that one, like that intentionality. So thank you, Rhea. Armin, what about you?
Okay, a good part of the reason why I raised my hand was I didn't want to be left out.
Let's be real. Yep.
FOMO is a real thing, and I have it hard. So anyway, yeah, that was part of it. But also, I know that I tend to float through the day. I've always had a hard time with time. Well, I guess always, because my kids are older, and so I don't have as many like activities. I'm not involved with like getting the high schooler to school. He does that himself. I don't have the built-in anchors
Mhm.
anymore of the day. And so I've always had a hard time with time blocks and didn't really use them because I would get stuff done, but it was just kind of as it came and as I felt like, or as it became urgent, you know. And so when y'all were doing it, I thought, yep, okay, I'm gonna try this. And the first day or two, I didn't really have any because I didn't do them. And then as it went on, I was like, okay, yes, okay, I need to do this, and this is when I'm going to do that. And it still needs work. I need to get a little more in touch with what I feel like doing at certain times, and so I can plug those things in then so that they will get done. And I'm working on that. It's gotten better, and yeah, that's probably the major one.
Yeah, I thought the same about figuring out what time of day I like to do things like that. One of the things I always say, like, yeah, be a detective about your time, right? And like take the emotion out. Now that it's been 2 weeks, I've found the same of like, oh, wait, I actually don't want to do this at this time of day, or I'm resistant to this thing at this time of day. And I think when you get the data points in, a lot of us don't take the time to stop. Like, essentially, we're doing all of it, right? Like, we're tracking, we're planning, like, we're doing all these things. So we're actually getting to look back and be like, oh, wait, I noticed. Like, I'll just give an example. I happened to have one task on my list that was there, and Jamie called me out and she was like, in the most loving way, I've noticed that this task has been on your list all week. And I was like, yes. And but this was my thing. I was like, but why? And I just kept, and I knew why. So I sat and I audited it and I picked a different time of day and I was able to do it. Without that accountability, I probably would have just kept pushing it off. Or I would have been like, oh, Cara, you've got to, and again, even though I know it, it was like, God, this is important, but like, you've got to get it together. Like, it would have been very shame-based in my head of like, I'm not doing it because I was lazy or whatever it was. But instead, I just figured it out. And this weekend, I did it. I finished all the tasks by the end of this week. Took me a few weeks to do it, even though it was like a 1 week task, but that feels really good to be done. So I love this idea of just like paying attention, right? Like leaning in, and that it evolves. So thanks, Arwen. Courtney, what about you?
Yeah, so kind of to piggyback off of Arwen, I was finding, so I took on the coaching position in end of August was when I started training, and so I stopped going to accountability calls like you were saying at the beginning. And so I, prior to that, was consistently coming to Sunday planning and like checking in with Jamie for office hours and like doing the thing. And then when I became a coach, I just stopped. And so I realized, one, that accountability piece, of course, but as Arwen was saying, I last year, both my 3 and 5-year-old went to preschool. And so I had those time blocks and those anchors of when I have kid free time and when I have to pick up and drop off and dance and soccer and all the activities. But this year, when we decided to homeschool, I now have my 5-year-old with me all the time. And so my time blocks did go out the window over the summer and just never really came back. So that has really pushed me to find those time blocks again and get those in place, which is also helping my 5-year-old because as I mentioned, like, we're expecting, and so first trimester was not nice to me and I was exhausted and tired and just miserable for, I mean, really from September until we started the challenge. And so this has really helped me to see, like, not that shame-based thought of like, oh, you were lazy or like you just weren't doing it or anything like that. Like, I was able to look and say, no, I actually am not feeling well during these times. And this is when I was planning to do homeschool stuff with her. So of course it was getting pushed back. And so I've been able to adjust kind of what everybody has been saying with my time blocks and with when I'm feeling better and not so great. And really just looking at what I want and what I need going forward, because this is our practice year of homeschooling. And like, this was our first year of just all of us figuring out these new schedules, with my husband being hybrid at work now. Like, he's back in the office some days, he's home some days. So it's really just been a good time for us to find what works for all of us and lean into that.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. And I like the reframing of that shame-based thought that we have. And I think for a lot of us, if we're not, quote, productive in the way that we've been told productive looks like, we're doing it wrong. Right. And like that was one of the coolest things I learned the past 2 weeks was like I also had time to craft and I read my book and I was doing, but I wasn't doing nonstop. Right. Like I was actually getting more done and still having time for rest, which a lot of us like don't believe that that is possible. Right. We believe like we must be going. Now, were there things that didn't get done? Yes. But like I got so many more things intentionally done, but also allowed myself to like be a human being, which like feels really nice. And also, thank you, Horny. All right, Jane, we heard about why, right? We started it all, but I'd love to hear some of your thoughts now after the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, a big one. There were two big ones that actually came to me this last week. One is kind of along the lines of what Ria said, because the way we're formatting this, a lot of us are doing our blocks in Notepad, which is it's such a silly thing, but it's so easy, at least for me, to go to bed feeling like nothing got done today, because inevitably your perfect plan it never is perfect for me. Like just what Ria said, like there's a fire you have to put out, or like I tend to overplan my blocks. That was a big thing that I actually got to see. Like, oh yeah, no, I need margin. I need buffer time because a phone call happened or a child got sick and I had to go pick them up. But seeing all the little yellow check marks at the end of the day was like, oh yeah, no, I actually got stuff done. Like maybe I didn't get everything done on my list, but there's yellow check marks there. I got stuff done. And the other one that, Cara talks a lot about this leaning into your season. And truth be told, I remember when my littles were little, like babies, whenever someone would be like, well, it's just the season, and I was like, but I want to get it all done. I want it all. I have bright, shiny object syndrome when it comes to goals, and rhythms and routines, and I want to do them all. And I had an aha moment yesterday where I was like, you know what, I'm trying to do too much. I need to refocus and remind myself that this month is a push month. I did this for a reason. Like my big goals, I have all my holiday tasks mapped out, which I highly recommend, because as a mom, it's crazy the things that you're responsible for that you don't even think, like buying the stamps for the holiday card, like all the things. I have it mapped out when, and same with work. I broke it all down. This is what I need to get done. And and at some point, it's great because we're all sharing these ideas. But last week I was like, oh, I'm going to come up with this whole new lunch system routine. And it wasn't ever getting done. And I had to remind myself, like, no, like lunch routine, workout routines, all the fun routines, like this is not the season to try to establish new routines. And it's okay if certain routines are not going to go well right now, because this is my focus. Holiday stuff, work. That's not to say nothing else. I mean, obviously my people need to be fed, the house needs to be cleaned, but this is not the time to all of a sudden try to rework all my systems. Yeah. There will be another month for that.
Yeah.
So having a focus and anchoring into that focus has been very helpful for me.
Well, we talk a lot about, it's not an official tagline, but maybe it is here, like intentionality and grace. And I just feel like that's what these past 2 weeks showed me. It was like, I was super intentional about what I did, but also like, I didn't do stuff. And like in the past 2 weeks, like it was, my kid had surgery that was last week. Oh my gosh. My kid had surgery last week. We had holiday stuff, like even going into the weekends, I never time block my weekends. And this was the first time I loosely time blocked them. And some of them were like, we had a birthday party from like 3 to 6. So I was like, birthday party. Like they were so light, but intentional. And I kind of echo everything everyone says, but to close out a couple of my takeaways, like my one was, and I know it, I wrote the dang book on it, right? But it's just 15 minutes. Like I swear I was playing this mind game with myself, and I would go through and say how long something would take. And I'd literally be like, oh, I have 10 minutes before we have to leave. And I'm like, you know what? I can like wipe the counters in the bathroom. Like it's on my list, just get it done. And like, I would just just get the tiny things done. Like I had this jewelry box for like 3 months that I wanted to put on my dresser, and I just did it one day because it didn't feel as big to me. And I think that was the other thing, was having those micro tasks intentionally decided where they went, not just on my thought catcher. And I have thought catcher time, but I would just have them on my thought catcher, but being really specific about this is where they go. I was able to do that. And then also just, again, like Arwen had said, like learning like when things fit the best for me was really key, because I actually, normally I don't work outside of my work hours, but there were some afternoons and evenings where I was like, just, I wanted to get this thing done. And so I'd work a little bit at night, and I was like, okay, in my brain was like, I don't want to work at night, but I was like, this works for me right now. So just like going with the ebbs and the flows. I mean, I have appreciated these past 2 weeks for so many reasons. We were just saying it it felt fun. Like I feel like we had a lot of fun. We're hanging out as people on Voxer. You know, we're just bonding as a team, but also I feel like really supported in just like showing up however I need to show up, right? Like holding each other accountable, but not in a way that makes you feel like not great. And even this weekend, my other takeaway was, so what was it? Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I didn't really check in, right? Like everybody else was checking in and boxing. I still had my plan and I was still doing it, but my personal life was just so busy that I didn't even have a few minutes to check in, but I still made the plan. And I think that's the other thing we think, like, I don't want to get hooked on this. Like I have to have this. Like eventually we can wean it off. And I noticed this weekend, while maybe I wasn't as intentional, actually I probably was, I think, and I can look back at my notepad and see, I think I was as intentional. I didn't need the support. I wanted it. I wanted the support because it was keeping me focused, and I'm excited to check in with everyone this week. But know that accountability piece is a missing lever, right? And there's another reason, like we wanted to share our takeaways. We didn't time this on purpose, but it just how happens that we're recording this. It's going to come out the day that the Purpose Driven Mom Club opens for our final cohort of the year. That really wasn't intentional. It just happened to be the next episode I had to do. So I was like, awesome, 2 birds, 1 stone, let's do this. But if you need that accountability, like we're here, and now you can see us, right? Here we are. Hello, everybody wave, right? Like this is the team that's here supporting you. And club members have said over and over and over, like getting on the calls is a key lever, whether they can listen, co-work, body double, or just get the coaching, because you need somebody else. You don't have to do it alone. And I think as moms, we think that we have to, right? Like, well, I'd be a good mom because I'm super mom and blah, 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 whatever. We don't need that, right? So if you're interested in joining the club, you can go to apurposedrivenmom.com/club. You can go to apurposedrivenmom.com/podcast 386. That's also where we're going to have the show notes for today's episode, and watch us over on YouTube, because then you get to see us and hang out with us. And we'd love to see you. We'd love to see you over in the club. And I want to thank the team today just for their time and their takeaways. If you guys have more questions about how it's gone, just hit me up. I'm over on Instagram at @apurposedrivenmom. You can send me a DM and I'll fill you in, because it'll be a month of fully doing this, which honestly I could not have done alone. I've tried, like, but there was just something about doing it together that is becoming, I think, that flywheel that's going to hopefully move it to becoming a habit where, like, again, like I love you guys. I'd love to check in, but hopefully we get to a point where we're like, we don't need it. Right? Like that's the goal. And that's the goal we want for you too. So thanks for listening today. Check out all the show notes. So come join us in the club. It is open to the 21st, which is a Thursday of December, where you can come join our final cohort of the year. Let's start 2024 together. Let us be your support system. We're your team, and we're right here behind you.